What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Fantasy Files podcast, where we talk about our favorite fantasy novels and topics. We are your co-hosts, Spencer and Gabe, and today we are celebrating hashtag Indie August by interviewing friend of the show and self-published author of the new urban fantasy series, Chaos Reigns, Jarryd Smith. How are you doing, man?
Doing all right. How are you guys?
Doing great.
Wonderful.
Yeah, we're super excited to talk about this debut novel, Oathbroken. But first, let's get into some housekeeping for the show. We are now on Spotify and Amazon Podcasts. We will be on Google Podcasts and Apple Podcasts as soon as we get the approval. So hopefully by our next episode, you'll be able to listen to us over there. And speaking of our next episode, before we dive into the Lightbringer saga, we will finally be doing our episode on King's Dark Tidings. Chris is just about done reading the fourth book, so we should be ready to do that next week. So catch up on those books if you haven't already. We recommend the audiobooks. They're fairly quick reads. You guys could probably read them in like a week and a half. And join us for a full spoiler discussion of King's Dark Tidings by Kelcade. But how it will work for this episode, we're doing something new, is we will be doing about 30 minutes or so of spoiler-free content for you guys so that you can learn more about Jarryd Smith and his new series, and then you can pause, go read it, and come back for the rest of the episode, which will be a full spoilers discussion of the first book. Before we go into the spoiler part, we will also be giving away 3 codes for the audiobook version of Oathbroken. So stay tuned for that and be fast with the thumbs to get your copy. I also just want to thank everyone for listening to this podcast, and thank you for all the support from the community over there on Twitter and YouTube. And speaking of Twitter, give us a follow over there to continue the discussion and keep up with our other content. Just look up Fantasy Files Podcast or @Files Fantasy, and please like and subscribe here on YouTube. All right, guys, let's get into it. As always, we're going to start with what we've been reading. Jarryd, I know it's probably kind of hard to read while you are also writing. That's got to be kind of a weird, like, confusing thing when you're trying to read somebody else's work but also create your own. But have you been able to read anything lately, or if not, what are some of your like favorite fantasy or sci-fi books?
Some of my favorite fantasy books are I really love the King's Dark Tidings. It's right up there as one of my favorites. Dresden Files, Mercy Thompson series by Patricia Briggs. It's a good urban fantasy.
Nice.
And then you've got The Land by Dr. Alan Fong.
Let's go. Dude, that is my series, bro. I love that series so much. So much.
Gabe,
actually, he lives here in Atlanta.
Really?
And I probably mentioned him a couple times tonight.
Nice.
So.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, I absolutely love those books. I've been telling Spencer, you got to read them, dude. You have to read them. They're so good. They're so good.
They are good. And you know, if you love Nick Podell, which everybody loves Nick Podell.
Yep.
It's definitely something to check out.
For sure.
Okay. It's definitely going on my list then.
Yeah,
Gabe has been trying to get me to read it for so long.
Like a year.
Yeah.
Like a long time.
And I've just been so like hesitant on it because I've never read a lit RPG. And so I didn't really know if I was gonna like the narrator mentioning like levels and skill levels and stuff. But you know, I got to give it a chance at some point.
You get used to it.
Yeah, you do. And I would say too, like like there is that, right? Like it's so you can, you know, you can keep track of their progression and the skills and stats and levels and all that. But there's so much story, like before that stuff, you know what I mean? Like there's so much, like 90% story, 10% of that. So it really spaces it, in my opinion, it spaces it out really well. So you never get tired of the stats stuff, right? Because then you're like, he gets this new level with this new ability, and you're like, oh, that's gonna be so sick. He's gonna use it and whatnot. So it works out well.
So is it, are they in a video game, or no? Is it not that book?
Kind of. He's originally playing a video game with his friends, right? Starts off with, and then he basically like goes through this portal, right, and gets like or whatever to the land, and then he's in the land, which is like its own, I guess, world. That's maybe a video game. I don't know if I.
Okay.
Go ahead.
It's its own world with a video game UI.
Okay.
It's basically like if you and I had the video game UI.
For sure. Yep.
So.
Okay.
Perfect. Yeah.
All right. I'll have to check it out at some point.
Yeah, you should. You should.
Gabe, I think that's actually something that you've reread recently, like in the past week, right?
Yep. So I made it back to I think the Land Raiders is the one that I stopped on. I had to start reading KDT so I could get through it before the the end of next week. But the last couple days I made it up to Raiders, and which is I think the fourth book or the third or fourth book in the series. And so yeah, I love it, man. I absolutely love it.
Okay. All right. Oh, so yeah, you've been reading KDT, King's Dark Tidings.
Yep, King's Dark Tidings.
How far are you with that?
I basically just finished the first book, so I'm not crazy far.
Okay.
I'll polish off the next 3 on the second week. I got a lot of time, but man, every time I read this series, every single time, it is so good.
I know. I'm near, I'm probably like halfway through the fourth book, maybe a little bit further, where they get to Lon Laresh.
Yeah.
And they have to do all that political maneuvering.
Yep.
And I'm just like, God damn, these are good books, man. I love them so much. So yeah, I've been enjoying those a lot. Other than that, I have been obviously read Oathbroken, and then I recently read Blood Song by Anthony Ryan. Have you read this, Jarryd?
I have not. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to get to it, but it has been highly recommended to me by my brother.
Yes.
And he's really kind of stuck me with it. So I do have it. It is on my list.
Nice.
Yes.
It's on mine too. I'm going to read it too when I get there, but I do want to read it.
Yeah, it's man, I loved it a lot, and I think for some people it might be kind of slow, but like when there is action, it's really good action, and just like the characters, like over time you just care so much about all these characters and how they relate to Valen Alsorna, the main character. And just like, I don't know, you just start to care about him so much and what's happening in the world. And the ending was probably, I think I would definitely call it probably one of like the most surprising endings that I've read in recent time. It leaves you with, it's the kind of ending where you're like, I have to read the second book right now. And it was super painful because I had to move on to King's Dark Tidings. And so I was like, oh, I want to read this so bad right now, but I can't. But yeah, I highly recommend it. People say that the end of the trilogy isn't as good, but that's all subjective. So we'll see. I'm excited just to see where Valen Alsorna goes. And then that same author, Anthony Ryan, is releasing later this month. He's releasing a book called The Pariah that I am super excited about. Have you seen this all over Twitter, Jarryd?
I have, it's been blowing up my Twitter
Yeah.
feed. So
Yeah,
definitely.
it is all over Twitter. I see nothing but like reviews for it and people posting the cover art. The cover art looks so good. And I'm probably, depending on where it comes out on the 24th of this month, and depending on where our reading schedule is at during that time, I might just have to like read it day one because it is getting so highly recommended. I have not seen one bad review. Every single person that has gotten a advanced reader copy of this book is just raving about it. And so I really, really need to read it. It sounds like it's kind of like a Robin Hood type guy. He's kind of like this outlaw. I don't know if he's like in a band of mercenaries exactly, but the back of the book was basically like, you know, he's like an outlaw who gets drawn into like the king's service. And so then he either in the military or in direct or part of like the king's guard or something. And I don't know, everything about it, it sounds like a super like morally gray character, which I really like, kind of a roguish character. And I always love those. And obviously I love Blood Song. So if it's more of that same quality, I am ready for it.
Definitely. The cover art sold me. So
yeah.
I saw the cover art and I was like, it's right up my alley. So
Yeah. Are there any other books that you are looking forward to in the near future, Jarryd? Or any that are on your TBR that you're itching to read?
Calcade's book that comes out in November.
The Fallen book.
Yes.
I forget what the title is.
The Fate of the Fallen book 2.
Yeah.
I'm definitely looking forward to that one. I'm looking forward to the next Land book.
Yeah.
After that, I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
I've been, buried between
sure.
everything else. So I haven't really had the opportunity to read like I did before I started.
Right.
Absolutely.
Writing.
Was the first Fate of the Fallen book pretty good? I never tried it.
Yes.
But it wasn't King's Dark Tidings.
It wasn't King's Dark Tidings.
Right.
It took me a minute to get into it, and once I got into it, then I really enjoyed it. But it did take me a few minutes to get into it. And when I say minutes, more like
hours,
7 or 8 chapters.
Yeah.
Something like that, where I just felt I can't really tell you why without spoiling a little bit of it, but
for sure. All right, well, let's get into our non-spoiler section of this book. So Jarryd, we've been friends on Twitter for a while now, and it's been awesome to see like you promoting your book and just being able to talk to you about it. I would love to know just like more about you, kind of like as a person, and like in your professional life, just kind of what the past like 2 years or however long it's been since you decided to like start writing, and just kind of like what your journey has been like while writing this thing and publishing it yourself. You're an indie author, so yeah, anything you can tell us about that would be great.
So my journey as far as becoming an author has been kind of wild. I've always wanted to write a book, but it was one of those things that whenever I was a kid, it was always explained to me as it's not something that, you really could do. But that was, of course, before Amazon came out with being able to self-publish as easy as it was, or as easy as it is now.
Yeah.
So is Amazon really the one pushing self-publishers? Is that where a lot of the self-published authors are going to? Because I really don't know anything about self-publishing.
So my understanding of it was that Amazon kind of paved the way for self-publishers.
Mm.
There are a lot of newer companies out there like Ingram Spark and stuff like that that are helping and providing a almost a better platform. But Amazon was at the forefront of it, and before that, self-publishers were generally considered something like a vanity publishing. Like if you couldn't get published from a traditional publisher, you had to pay a whole lot of money and have a vanity publisher publish your book, and
Okay.
you had to sell it yourself. Um, as it stands now, you publish through Amazon, and it's as easy as writing the book and then putting it on there.
Yeah.
And if it's also why a lot of self-publishers get a really, really bad rap, is because it is so easy that they don't edit, they don't pay for an editor, they don't pay for checking the book, so they just write it and throw it out there.
Right.
And you buy this book, and then it's like it's loaded with errors. Nothing makes sense,
Yeah.
and they're horrible.
Huh.
And so they saturate the market with it, and that's why it's been so hard. That's why on Twitter, on Reddit, you see so much hate towards the self-published community.
Interesting. I had never even really considered that, but that really makes sense. So what's it been like the past couple of years for you writing? Like where, like how did you get from the point where, people are telling you that self-published authors are, kind of this oversaturation, but to where you are now, where you've released Oathbroken, and it's, it's we love the book, and
Yep.
obviously a lot of other people do, because I'll talk about it down below too, but like there's some really good reviews for this book. So what was kind of like that time in between of you like planning for this book and just kind of your process of writing it?
I planned this book for quite a while before I actually started writing it. My brother came to me, and he wanted to start writing his own book, and so we started a writing group together and challenged each other to write, and we would critique each other.
Nice.
And I started Oathbroken, actually writing Oathbroken on January 1st of 2020.
Oh, okay.
And I finished Oathbroken, the first draft, by the end of May.
Wow.
And I would come home, and from work, I'd work anywhere from an 8 to 10 hour day.
Yep.
And I'd come home and I would dedicate 3 hours, 4 days a week. And one of my weekend days, depending on whatever days I had off or wasn't doing anything with my family, because I have a wife and 3 kids.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I can't give up everything for
sure. Yeah.
Right.
And just not pretend that I don't have a family to
Yeah.
be with. So,
Yeah. Absolutely.
but I told myself I need to write 3,000 words, or I need to write a full chapter, or I would set a goal and I would write it. And, I had some really bad writer's block around May, but I was able to get it finished. And then after that, it was the rewrite and the edit, and then the rewrite and the edit and the rewrite.
Yeah.
And then I never actually thought of even publishing the book. I never thought it was going to get get to this point.
Yeah.
I never thought anybody was going to read it.
Huh.
So kind of where I am right now is all kind of been a wild ride.
Yeah, I bet.
Do you want to ask about the Twitter
Sure.
community, Gabe? Or do you want to ask more
Or-
about writer's block or
Yeah,
either
so
one of those?
that was gonna be my question. It was is kind of more about the because you mentioned writer's block, right? And I'm just curious, somebody that has never been in that realm of writing anything, but I can personally imagine it being extremely frustrating, right? Like not being able to like plan out a little further or get it anywhere further. So I guess I'm just curious to kind of how you overcame the writer's block and maybe how often you had it and just kind of the struggles of like sitting down and not having the ideas pop up in your head, I guess.
Well, the problem was not necessarily that I didn't have the ideas. The ideas were flowing so
Yeah.
crazy
Oh, so
that
you
I
can narrow them
couldn't
down.
sleep
Oh, yeah.
at night. But
Yeah.
then when I would sit in front of my computer and try and type something out, I just could not get started.
Yeah.
And I actually got over it because, and much to his dismay, probably, I contacted Dr. Alan Kong
Oh, wow.
on Facebook and sent him a message, told him what was going on, and asked him what his advice was. And he gave me some really good advice, and I probably beat him into the ground, but he, he's a really nice guy.
Yeah.
And really into helping his fans. And he talked to me and gave me some good advice, and I was able to sit down and finish it out.
That's awesome. That's really cool that I don't know. I just like that a lot that you were able to ask him or other writers. I think that's great.
It was really cool for me too. I was on a big land kick at the time. So me being able to contact him and it's really hard because a lot of the big authors don't have anything to do with their social media.
Yeah,
Somebody
or really
else
busy
runs their
or what?
social
Yeah,
media.
yeah, of course.
So contacting him and for him to be able to contact me back and still contact me back.
Yeah.
He contacted me not too long ago when the book first came out because I sent him a message and let him know thank you for all your help. It's one thing when you're a doctor, you're an author, and then you can turn around and be a mentor. And I don't even think he really understands how much he's helped people.
Absolutely.
So is
That is awesome.
I'm not familiar with that name. Is that the author of the Land series?
The Land, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Right on. So yeah, I guess that kind of leads into your next question here, Gabe, about the internet community.
Yep. So the big writing community on Twitter, did they play a role in your writing journey? Did they affect it or maybe throw ideas at you or just kind of anything like that? Could you maybe ask advice there? Yeah, support, exactly. Support scenario, whatnot.
The Twitter community has been interesting. I did not start my Twitter until April of this year because I tried to do Kickstarter to get the book going.
Yeah.
Because I spent the first half of the year, the first 3.5 months, bedridden. I got COVID real bad, then I got pneumonia, and I was really, really sick.
Yeah.
And so I was out of work for 3.5 months.
Yep.
And then when I went back to work, I wasn't working but part-time. I was working like 20 hours a week.
Yeah.
And so I did the whole Kickstarter thing, had no followers, did not get the Kickstarter off the ground. My brother ended up coming up and helping me with getting what I needed to pay for my editor and stuff like that. So I had some family support.
Nice.
That was really awesome. And I thought it was just really funny that as of like June 2nd, I had 0 followers. And by the day that I published my book, I had 300, 400 followers.
Wow.
And then, it's just gone up from there. So
I'm sure.
From the time that I've gotten out there and there has been some members of the Twitter community that have just been absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And that's been what my driving force on me trying to support some of the other indie authors that are on there as well, because I get support. I want to make sure I show the same support to them.
Yep, absolutely. You got to give what you get, for sure.
Definitely. And I'm loving this whole Indie August thing that's going around right now, because there's so many books that I have seen just in the past couple weeks from all this hashtag going around, where I'm like, oh, I would have never ever found this book if the Twitter community hadn't been so like forceful about putting these books out there. And a lot of them I'm like, man, like I really want to read these, like Seasons of Albion. I was talking to somebody about that the other day. That looks like a really good book. And there's a ton of them. I guess of Sea and Shadow is a self-published book. We were talking about that on one of our last episodes. And
I've seen that one a lot too, so
I'm super excited to read it. Do you remember, Gabe? It's the one where there's the two
different
perspectives.
Yeah,
that one looks super cool.
Yep.
And then I actually totally forgot that King's Dark Tidings was actually self-published. That was she was a indie author at the time, and then she got, who did she sign on with for Fate of the Fallen? I forget what that publishing company was, but do I have that right? King's Dark Tidings was self-published at first, right?
I want to say King's Dark Tidings was self-published. I'm not 100% positive, but her audiobooks for King's Dark Tidings are through Podium.
Oh,
and Podium does a lot of indie authors.
Okay, cool.
As well. So, but there is a possibility. But I want to say she was. I actually didn't even know it was a woman at first.
Oh, me neither.
I didn't either. I didn't
Yeah.
either. I didn't know till like 3 days ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, dude. The last time you told me, you said she, and I was like, I didn't say anything about it because I didn't want to sound dumb. But I was like, no way, which is awesome. I love that. I love that.
Yeah, I didn't find out until I read the series through the first time. I thought it was a dude the whole time. And then on my second reread, I was looking into her more.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man. And then I found out the other day that I guess for a long time it was a secret. Like for a long time, she didn't even like reveal who she was. And it wasn't until like the third book came out that she actually revealed that she was a female author, which is super cool. I think that's awesome. I don't read enough female authors, not because I don't like them or anything, but just because the stuff that I've read happens to be mostly male authors.
Yeah.
But reading through it this last time with that in mind, that she is a female author, there was so many more. It put everything in just such a different light that I really appreciated a lot more. And we'll probably talk about that on the KDT podcast. Yep. But okay, so speaking of this community on Twitter, there's also the Reddit community has been really big on it too, right? Because that's where I first heard about it, is on Reddit. I had posted I think one of our Dresden Files episodes or something, and somebody was like, oh, have you seen like Chaos Reigns? And I'm like, oh no. And so that was the first time I heard about it. And then somehow we ended up getting connected on Twitter, and it just got in front of my face even more, and I was like, okay, I gotta read this. And yeah, so has the Reddit community been a part of that too?
It really has. The Oathbroken was the July spotlight for new authors on the new author Reddit.
No way.
That's so awesome.
That's cool.
There has been a lot of support, and Reddit is actually fairly hard to use as a promotion device.
Yeah.
Yes,
A
it
lot
is.
of the Reddits have a
All the rules and
against
stuff. Yeah.
self-promotion.
Oh my
So,
gosh. I've been navigating those like in Mission Impossible when he's going through all the lasers.
Yeah.
trying
Yeah.
to find the subreddits where you can just kind of promote your stuff is so difficult. There's like 3 subreddits that I'm able to post to. But yeah, sorry. Anyway, Reddit.
no, well, that's how I found you guys. And I kind of slid into y'all's Twitter because
Yeah.
I was like, hey, look, here's this new podcast. Let me just work my way in there.
Yeah.
And,
Definitely.
But I've been doing that with a lot of podcasts as well. So
Yeah.
just trying to make sure I get myself out there
Of course.
and do as much as I can. But definitely because I want to say somebody sent me a message and was like, have you seen this new Dresden Files podcast that they're going to be doing like an urban fantasy podcast? You should get on here and go look at this. And so
nice.
I went and I found you, and that's how we got
Awesome.
to where we are now. So
Yep.
That's so awesome.
That is really cool.
I love communities like that. I love how word of mouth spreads and everybody just promotes each other's content.
Yeah.
I think that's probably one of the best parts of the internet. The internet can be pretty horrible sometimes, but that's a really good part of it. And
it's just a lot of love, man. It's a lot of love on communities like that, which is awesome.
Yeah. And I've really enjoyed this Twitter community. When I first joined or put the podcast when I first made a podcast Twitter account, I was like, oh, is this gonna go like horribly wrong? Because I've always heard that Twitter is like the worst of the internet. But I think as long as you stay within like this like writing community and book blogging community, like that's the only people that we follow on Twitter. And it has been nothing but awesome people promoting each other's stuff and recommending books. Most of the books that I'm now reading are because of the Twitter community. So then in that same kind of vein, I know it's a question further down on the notes, but while we're here, the book has a unheard of 4.9 stars on Audible. I don't think I've ever seen that for a book. What has it been like? Have you been reading some of these reviews that have come out on Chaos Reigns, and like, how do you feel about them?
Yeah, I need to stop reading them. I probably read them a couple times a day. So as far as the audiobook, it has, I guess people need to go on and rate it. Because it doesn't have as many ratings as books that have sold. But then that aspect that it is dramatically selling way more than I anticipated.
Yeah.
So it's way I had an estimate with my narrator of where we thought it was going to be at, and it has way overshot that. That's
nice. That's awesome.
So great. I love that so much. So yeah, I guess that actually kind of leads into the next question a little bit. Like, what were some of the things that you learned from like writing and publishing this book, and like finding a narrator and all those kind of things? Like what is like the big takeaway from this journey that you'll use in the next book or the next time that you publish something?
I'm hoping I won't have to find a new narrator. So I don't think I'll have to go through that again.
Nice.
Brayton, it was right from the very beginning when I decided that I was going to use Brayton. It was key that I don't want to change narrators.
Yeah, of course.
So I do have multiple books planned in the series. and I want him to be the narrator for all of them.
Yeah.
Right. How many, because this is the thing that I've probably been most curious about, that I've always wanted to ask an author, is first of all, how do you find an audiobook narrator? Like, how many do you go through before you decide on one? And then how much interaction do you have with them as far as like making sure that they pronounce things correctly? Because fantasy always has all sorts of weird made up words that we love. And so making sure that they like pronounce them correctly, or making sure that they get the voice of, I know that's a lot of questions, but I think you probably get it.
Well, Brayton, I put Oathbroken on ACX before I want to say a couple of days before I published. And
what is that?
ACX is the audiobook format for Audible.
Okay.
Okay.
It's for when you go through essentially like Audible in order to, or Amazon in order to do your audiobook. There are other audio, like Podium Publishing, which is an audiobook publisher. There are audiobook publishers that you can get picked up at. But then when you deal with an audiobook publisher, you deal with the same issues that you have with traditional publishing, essentially.
Gotcha.
So I went through ACX. A lot of self-publishers will go through ACX. When I posted it up, you have to do, you post an audition script up there. And I did Flynn.
Okay. Yep. That's a good one. That's a good one.
And the part around Flynn, and out of everybody that auditioned, Brayton was the only one who actually even attempted Flynn.
Okay.
Nobody else even did Flynn. They did all the other voices. They did all the other stuff. They didn't even attempt it. So, of course, I was like, I've got to go with Brayton. He nailed Flynn. So,
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's cool. That's really cool.
I was thinking about that on this last reread, and we'll talk more about who Flynn is in the spoiler section, but to say the least, he is a he has an Irish accent.
Very Irish.
And and when I heard it on this last reread, I'm like, oh man, that's actually like a really good Irish accent. I really enjoyed that character. Cool. So then he auditioned, and you liked the way he sounded. What was kind of your interaction from there as far as getting the rest of the book done? Did he have to like submit a voice for each character and you approve it, or did he just kind of record sections and you approve them section by section?
Yeah, in a way, there was a lot of interaction and talking, and I actually got in Discord with him, and me and him had a long call and went over a lot of the different aspects of what I was wanting from these characters and what I want from the series, because he got a copy of the book first, of course.
Yeah.
And, you know, he was like, I love this. I want to be a part of it. I want everything to do with this book.
Yeah.
So, and I had seen in him like a drive, and he did good with the voices, and he was doing good with just reading the book and everything. That I was like, this kid, he is young. He's in college, so he's quite a bit younger than me. And I say kid, and I apologize to him, but I always say kid. But I was like, he's gonna go somewhere in this industry.
Yeah.
He's gonna be somebody, whether I pick him up now or somebody else picks him up later, he's gonna go somewhere. So
well, that's cool too that he's younger, because then as your protagonist grows and gets older, the narrator will kind of grow with that, and you'll probably hear that in the voice, which is pretty cool.
Definitely. And then after those calls, you know, we figured out what the contract was going to be, and I gave him a lot of creativity
Yeah.
let him do his own thing.
Yep.
And was like, look, I have a couple of different points that I want that need to be done in this way. But after that, you do whatever you want.
Oh, cool.
And so he's had a lot of creative liberties with the voices and stuff like that. And there are going to be a couple of changes. I do want him to slow down just a touch on the next book. And he even said he wanted to slow down because I think the book was estimated to be 9 hours.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it ended up being 7 hours and 50.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or yeah, something like that.
So. Yeah. I was gonna say real quick, I kind of like that. The 6.5 hour, like obviously the books will get longer and longer the more story we get, and they'll get bigger. But for a debut novel, I really liked the idea of it being 6.5 hours. It feels really fast paced. Like once you get past the wedding, like the first chapter, then everything just like picks up and it doesn't stop. And I think that worked out so well for that size of book. But anyway,
well, the book itself, I decided on the length of this book based on the traditional novel size.
Yeah.
So it is 83,000 and somewhat words, which is just as much as books like Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, Stormfront.
Yeah.
They're all the same. Brayton he read it a little bit faster. And that's why it is because he is a fast reader.
For sure.
And
interesting. Yeah, I was gonna ask how big the actual how big the actual paperback was, because yeah, obviously, like I said on Twitter, we do everything in audiobooks.
Yeah.
So we never know. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, he's gonna tell us right now. Yeah,
nice.
See, that's
okay.
That's Stormfront, man, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so, I gotta buy the paperback version of this. I definitely want a paperback of it.
Well, we are going to do a hardback.
Oh, really?
Oh, nice.
I'm working with the cover artist. We're gonna do some. I want it to be special, so we're gonna do a little thing with a coin on the page numbers. So when you flip the pages, the coin spins.
That's cool.
Oh, sick.
That's gonna be sweet, dude.
That's awesome.
So we are working on that stuff, but we're also working on the cover page and cover art for book 2.
Okay,
and
nice.
So
Gabe has a question about the cover art.
Okay.
Pretty much the same question as the narrator question, but for cover art, right, Gabe?
Yeah, and it just like Spencer said, it's along the same lines. Like, what was the process and like, again, finding your cover artists, right? Like, did you have people submit different styles? You kind of like give them an outline and say like, this is kind of what I'm looking for. Let me see what you got type thing. And just how did that process play out?
For most authors, it's like that.
Okay.
You go on, there are several websites, there's several art groups that you can go to and petition. I do have a website that is all about cover artists showing their stuff.
Okay, nice.
And you go in there and you pick yours out. I was lucky enough that my wife is an artist.
Oh.
And she did the cover art for me.
Oh, cool.
Oh,
that's so awesome.
So
that's really sweet, man.
That's awesome.
She did a good job, and she's working on we just did the mock-up for Blood Games. So
nice. That's really cool.
We're
right on.
Really excited about that one. So
nice. Good deal.
I love the cover art for this book. You can see it. You can see it here behind me.
Yeah.
And every time on Audible, it looks so cool because on my phone, when the screen is when you just like tap on it, like not unlock it, but just like tap on the screen, it shows up behind kind of like a wallpaper, and then it has like the Audible like timeline and everything, and it just looked so cool on my phone. And so I always love like opening up my phone and seeing that. Yeah, she did a fantastic job with it. I really love it.
Yeah, she was really nervous about it, but I think it's gotten more love than the book has.
And oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, without, maybe I should ask this in spoilers if it is a spoiler, but it's one of his stones, right? That he uses for magic.
Okay, perfect. That's what that was my thought.
Yeah. All right. So how long did she work on that? And like when you have like a final draft of it, I guess, is there anything else that you have to do? Like, how do you like get it printed? Like, do you have to find like a printing company that will just like kind of wrap it all into a cover, like take these images and put it on a cover? And
no, Amazon has a format that you fit the picture into, and if you do that, and then it'll fit it over the book.
Oh, that's cool. Man, Amazon is awesome.
Yeah, Amazon is awesome.
They really are awesome. To do the hardback, it's going to be a little bit more work.
Yeah. Right.
So we're probably going to go with Ingram Spark on that, but there's going to be a lot more to it. Dust jacket, stuff like that. So
gotcha.
Okay.
So it might change slightly. She may have to redo some parts, but she's up to the challenge.
That's right. That's right. Exactly.
Cool. That's awesome. Yeah, I might have to hold out for the hardback. That sounds awesome.
Yep. Yeah. After you told me everything about it, I definitely want to.
Yeah. All right. So let's get into telling the listeners about the actual series and kind of what the plan is for it, and without spoiling anything, what this book is about. So what do you usually tell people as far as like the elevator pitch? Like when you say, hey, you should check out my book, it's about this, like what would you tell people?
I try and use that Caleb is a Filipino American, and basically, he's just a guy wanting to be normal and wanting to leave his past behind him, but he kind of gets pulled in when his friend goes missing. So
okay.
And as far as the series goes, it's just following his adventures
through that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. In like an urban fantasy setting, right? Like there's magic and there's all these different we'll probably different factions, different supernatural beings, stuff like that.
Yes.
Gabe, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, so he kind of just talked about a little bit, but my question just was simply like, who is Caleb Rains, right? Like as a person, as part of the story. But again, you pretty much just kind of gave that out. So if there's anything else you want to add about him, you can. If not, you kind of filled it in for me.
Well, he's a smartass.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. Yep.
Yeah.
And that was a big part of his personality. And the fact that he likes to cook.
Yes. I loved those parts. I really did.
Yeah.
I remember I had somebody ask me why that I had put those in there, and I told them that it's just part of his personality.
Yeah. Yep.
And I wanted to bring some of the Filipino aspects of his. I'm Filipino American, and so I wanted to put a little bit of the culture in there as I'm learning it, because I don't even know a whole lot of my own culture as that goes. So I'm trying to add pieces in there as I learn myself.
Yep. No, that's great. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I appreciate that a lot. I know that I probably don't look it at all, but a large majority of my family is Filipino.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And so yeah, and so I really loved all the cooking scenes, and yeah, I can't wait to see more of that. So what were I mean I feel like it's pretty, you know, you say urban fantasy and everybody thinks of like, you know, maybe 2 or 3 specific series, but what were your inspirations for this series? Whether it be other books that you read that you kind of wanted to model after, or just like other things in life that inspired you to write this the way you did.
Well, when you see urban fantasy, the most common one probably that'll come to mind is Twilight. Granted, that wasn't my biggest inspiration. I actually wrote and built this series around a reoccurring dream that I had.
Ah,
And it was, I put the dream in the book
yep.
and I built it off of that. And I built the series kind of around the more common urban fantasy book, you know, style. You know, you see a lot of the Harry Dresden, Mercy Thompson. These urban fantasy are probably my biggest inspirations as far as books go.
What are you a fan of Iron Druid Chronicles? Because
I've never read the Iron Druid.
Never read them.
Chronicles.
Okay.
Okay.
I've been trying to get Spencer to read them. I like them a lot.
I mean, I've read the first couple, and I got some like really big like Iron. That's surprising because I got some really big Iron Druid Chronicle vibes from this book. And I think I've mentioned it before. Is actually I'll talk about it in the spoiler section because I want to go deeper into that. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Okay, so what came first for you when you were writing this series or getting ready to write it? You know, you talked about a recurring dream that is in the book, but what about like what came first as far as like story, characters, world building? Like, did you start with a world and then put characters into it, or did you start with a story and put characters into it, or start with characters and build a world around it?
I started with a story,
Okay.
and then I built the characters, and then I did the world building, and I actually took a magic system from another book that I was working on, that I was developing. And because my original magic system for Chaos Reigns was overly complex, and because when I first started designing it, I went way overboard, and I was like, oh, you know, let's do all of the things. And I was like, no, let's cut it back. I remember I showed it to my wife, and she was like, I don't understand anything that's going on here.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so let's cut it back. So I ditched half of the magic system. I pulled the magic system from a different story I was building up, because I apparently love to do that. And I pulled it over and built it the way that I did. I wanted Caleb to have a different magic system. So, you know, and then it just kind of, once I got the key elements of each part, it just kind of took off.
Nice.
Okay. And you know, that's a interesting point that you bring up that I hadn't really thought about. But you know, you say that you wanted to put like everything in there. Was it difficult to have all of these ideas for like where you see the series going and trying to decide what you're going to fit into the first book? Because I feel like if I was going to write a book, I would immediately have like the end in mind and want to put those elements in immediately. But of course, I mean, I don't know anything about writing, but that's probably not great world building to put all your end game stuff at the beginning.
No, you want to leave a little bit for them for the readers to look forward to.
Yeah.
Right.
And I have some stuff I think will be very exciting. I'm very happy with how book 2 is going.
Nice.
That's
I'm so
awesome.
excited, dude.
That's awesome.
Yep.
My wife is very excited too.
Yeah, I bet. I bet she is.
She's my
That's reader?
critique reader.
Yeah.
Yep, the
That she
proofreader,
reads
yeah.
everything first before anybody else does, and she knows all of the things. She's the only person that knows the end game.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And
That's so awesome.
so
That's cool. So do you have do you have things like an actual like an editor and like beta readers and stuff? Is that something that you're doing yet?
yes, no, it is something that I've already done.
Okay.
I had 8 beta readers that read the book ahead of time. Brayton actually is going to be a beta reader for book 2.
Nice.
Because he wants to read it before he starts recording,
Yeah.
Right.
and we're gonna go over some of the new characters and stuff like that. So
Nice.
Awesome.
and I
Awesome.
do have an editor. Her name is Jamie from Rose Rock Editing, and she's on my Twitter and everything like that. So
Nice.
Okay, so I guess I've gone through most of these questions. Looks like we have 2 more here before we get into our big spoiler section. So I guess you already kind of answered it, but do you already have like a outline for like however long this series is going to be? Do you already have that outline, or are you kind of wanting to see how each book moves in its own way before you get there? Or yeah.
I have at least 10 books planned.
Okay.
Wow.
I do have a prequel novella that will tell
Yes.
how Caleb met Abby.
Oh, excellent.
Right. Yeah.
That I am working on.
I
Nice.
definitely
will
want to
be-
read that.
Yeah,
Yep.
it'll be released after book 2. It'll be done.
Okay.
I'll release it after book 2.
Nice.
But I couldn't not do it. So
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
but yeah, I have at least 10 books planned for this series.
Okay.
Nice.
And then are there so I noticed something that you posted on Twitter maybe a little less than a month ago or so, and you were asking if people would rather see like the next Chaos Reigns, or there was like a high fantasy book. So are there other genres that you're wanting to dip your toe into as far as like other series or other standalone books, or just other things you want to write?
As far as genre, I'm pretty much going to stay in fantasy.
Yeah, I just meant like high fantasy or like
Yes,
other types of subgenres.
There is. I am currently, one of my other projects is a high fantasy. Probably kind of like a cross between Dark Tidings and Harry Potter, I guess you could say.
Okay.
Okay.
That is, my brother says it will be my big.
Aha.
So if Oathbroken is not going to be, or Chaos Reigns is not going to be my big series, that one is going to be
Nice.
Okay.
and it's going to be a trilogy.
Oh,
And then I have
sweet.
another trilogy planned behind that one
Okay.
that are
Nice.
all planned out. I've outlined them. They're planned and ready to go. I just need to finish writing them.
Nice.
Right
Yep.
on. Right on. All right. So that's probably all the questions that I have then. Let's move on to our spoiler section. Yeah, from here on out, we are going to go into spoilers. So if you haven't read Oathbroken, we recommend you definitely go pick it up and come back to join in on the rest of the conversation. Go follow Jarryd Smith on Twitter at jsmithindieauth. That's author without the OR. And also just go support indie authors in general. There's a lot of good stuff coming out right now, and they're all really worth checking out. It's really worth getting into the Twitter community and following some of these like booktubers and all these indie authors. They're all doing great stuff. We'd like to give away some free codes for the Oathbroken audiobook. So email us at fantasyfilespodcast@gmail.com and tell us your top 3 favorite fantasy books or series and why you like them. And we will send the first 3 people free codes for the audiobook on Audible. Thank you everybody for listening so far. And now we are moving into spoilers in 3, 2, 1. You've been warned. All right. So first of all, what the fuck, Alex? God damn it. I'm like, was she just playing him the whole time to get back to James, or does James have some sort of like super bond over her? I want to know so bad. I want to know what was up with James at the end, why she ran away, and just like, you know, I thought for sure, I don't know. I thought for sure at the end of the book we would like see her again, or that Caleb would find her. But I'm so excited to see where that storyline goes, and just to know more about like what all that was about. Because that was probably one of my favorite parts of the book, was Caleb and Alex, and just like how they interact, and they're kind of like this. I don't know. It just reminded me of Twilight, and there's a part of me that like really likes Twilight.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know, I really like that whole romance there. And yeah, at the end I was just like, what the fuck are you doing, Alex? What the fuck? But I really like how Caleb isn't that concerned about it, and like the whole book he's actually pretty casual about Alex. Like there's one moment where he says he like realizes that he really liked the idea of her like choosing him and bonding with him intentionally.
Yeah.
But other than that, he's like very cool about the whole thing, and he's very just kind of relaxed about it. And he's definitely like, there's definitely interest there, and he's definitely like very interested in her. But I kind of like how even at the end he was like, I am more concerned with making sure Sam is okay, and like making sure that,
Yep.
you know, the coven doesn't kill me. Like he's got his priorities in line. And that's something that we don't often see from fantasy. I really, really like that.
Well, you know, Alex is a big girl. You know, she can take care of herself.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the honest truth is that wasn't planned.
Oh, really?
One of
There we
the
go.
biggest things with Alex was she evolved as I was writing the story.
Okay.
And she has deviated completely and uncontrollably beyond my original plan for her.
Interesting.
But it has made future storylines so much better for it.
Yeah.
Nice.
I remember my brother read the book first, and after my wife, of course, and he was like, I thought you were doing something different. What is it?
Yeah.
So definitely it's it's going to be a fun storyline.
Nice.
I'm so excited, and we'll talk more about the vampires here in a second further down in the notes. But I just want to say I loved Alex's character. I love that she was like, she's obviously older than Caleb, and she's strong in her own right. She didn't have to like depend on him to get her out of certain situations. She was never really the damsel in distress. And while that's good sometimes, I do like that kind of trope sometimes. I really enjoyed that Caleb was able to fight alongside her and not have to worry about her. Like in a lot of fantasy books, we see the either the two people in the romance, or even if they're friends or something, one is stronger and they're always having to like look over their back and be like, oh, are they doing okay over there? And
Yeah.
Caleb never really had to worry about that. She was, when all the undead started piling into the
It's
house,
like whooping on him.
she's whooping on him, and
Yeah.
he didn't really, he was getting his own ass kicked, and he didn't really have to worry about her getting her ass kicked. He was able to just focus on his own thing, and I really appreciated that more than I thought I would.
Well, I think the big thing is the reverse of the vampire romance. A lot of times in a lot of series, you'll see the vampire is the guy.
Yep.
And I wanted, when I created this relationship, I wanted that reverse. And I intentionally made it that way because, one, I can't stand weak female main characters.
Yeah.
I can't. It's one of my reasons why I am such a Jim Butcher fan. He does female characters so well, it's unreal.
Yeah.
Especially if you guys read the Codex Alera, one of my favorite characters of all time is the female character in that.
Okay. Yeah,
So,
that is definitely on our TBR pile.
Likewise. Yes.
So, yeah, I really, I had a lot of fun with creating that relationship.
Yeah,
That's cool.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, have you, and I forget the name, but Spencer, it's the Twilight. It's not really a spin-off, but it's basically Twilight where the roles are reversed, right? What do you remember the name of that book? What it's called?
I can't remember what it's called. I think it was something like of Death and Love or something.
Okay.
It was something that didn't sound like Twilight at all.
Yep, I got you. But I mean, it's Twilight, but right, it's just like you said, the roles are reversed, and I liked it so much more than I liked. And I like Twilight, okay? Like, I love the movies, I love the books, great. But I like that one so much more when the roles were backwards. So I think I personally love that a lot, that was kind of reversed like that. So that was definitely a plus in my book for sure.
Yeah, and that's why I like that relationship so much, is because it brought back so much nostalgia for that book, and just kind of that whole situation that they find themselves in. And I really appreciated it. And I liked, I don't know what it is about it, but there's something about whoever the vampire is in the relationship, them like taking care of the human. I really like that. And so like, there's like a couple times where like Alex and Caleb are, something's about to attack him, and she like grabs him and like rushes away. And dude, those are like some of my favorite scenes, like just them like, protect the human, and like just dip out of there. And and then I think when Caleb first, they're outside, it was right after, I think it was right after he gets attacked by Dave, the pizza guy or something, and all the vampires are there, and he's like telling them that he knows what they are and stuff, but it was either that scene or it was later on, but he's hurt, and then Alex like heals him and like or helps him get up, or she's like, we got to get him out of here or something. And I love that kind of like relationship so much, but I also like that, you know, usually in these vampire stories, we see one is very strong and one is very weak. And the vampire is like very strong, indestructible, and the human is like very weak, like they almost can't do anything. But because it's Caleb Rains, he also has power in his own right, and he can hold his own as well. And so you're getting all the good parts of the like vampire love story, but you also have, you know, less of the bad part because you have like the human who's able to hold his own. And I really appreciated that in this. All right, Gabe, do you want to ask this next question?
So I do have a question. So at the very beginning of the book, the ghost or spirit, whatever you say, that Sombra let go to, like, you know, get her revenge, right? To get her, whatever it was, that was Agnes, right? I mean, that's, and me and Spencer had the same question. I typed this on my phone. I typed it on my phone, and because I was checking the notes, and I was like, that's the same question that I had. So I'm like, I think in my head that it is, right? It has to line up that way. I'm not sure, but that's the way that my head went.
Okay.
So I don't know if you can answer that or if you can, but I was very, very curious.
No.
No? Okay.
Yeah, no. Okay, perfect. Oh, it's not her. Okay, excellent.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So I'll go ahead and answer that. No, it is not.
Okay, perfect. Perfect.
As far as the timelines go, what happens in the prologue is the same blood moon as the wedding. So the wedding, they were still the blood moon. So the events are all taking place at the same time.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Within certain time frames, so that each other but all present.
Okay,
Got it.
cool.
Okay. Interesting.
Yep. Problem solved.
Yeah, I'm super excited to learn more about like Anubis and Sombra and all these other gods. I'm assuming they're gonna eventually, like, even though they're all happening at the same time, I'm assuming they're all gonna eventually kind of overlap and come into like Caleb's world and be a part of the bigger story, right?
Yes, they're not gods.
Oh,
but they're essentially what mythology is based off of them.
Okay.
They've been around since before mythology of wherever region, you know, they've been, you know, whether it's Anubis or you know, Lady Muerte or Sombra, you know.
Okay.
Azrael or Hades, you know.
Gotcha.
They've been around for a while. And so human civilization have based their mythology off of them.
Okay.
Interesting. Okay. Can you tell us, and if there's anything that you can't answer, that's totally fine.
Yep.
And we can edit out anything that you don't want to answer or whatever. Can you tell us like where they kind of rate on the power scale in this world?
They're up there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's kind of what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. What you've seen from them right now is nothing compared to what they can do. So.
Okay.
So. In book 2, you will meet. This is not a spoiler, but I can go ahead and tell you guys. Essentially, the way that I like to do this is the prologue and the epilogue are going to be told from a different point of view for every book.
Okay. Cool.
For book 1, it was Anubis. For book 2, it's going to be Selenia.
Okay.
And then after that, you know.
So on and so forth.
So on and so on.
So on and so forth.
Okay.
Because the book is being told from Caleb's perspective, I'm using the prologue and the epilogue to bring in other pieces of the story. For everybody.
Nice.
So after we get out of that prologue, we see this this wedding scene, And maybe it was something that was answered, or maybe I missed it, or maybe it's just something we're not supposed to know yet. But if you can answer this, which vampire bit Eddie at the wedding, and like what was that about? Because Alex says that he's a caterer, but then he's going up to Nicole like they've been a thing all this time. Did I miss something, or is that going to get explained later?
No, it's going to get, it was Nicole, but it'll be explained more.
Gotcha.
It'll be clarified and explained more in book 2.
Okay, got it. Okay. Yeah, I liked that whole wedding scene, just because it gives us such a kind of like a jump start into who all these characters are. Like you did a really good job of one after another, as if they were all lined up, like one after another, just introducing us to each character and giving us just enough about them, and kind of like the narrator obviously helped with it too, because you can kind of tell a lot about a character if a narrator does a good job. But I feel like that wedding scene was so good because we got introduced to every character right after another. And by the end of that wedding scene, I had a pretty good understanding of who all these people are and what part they're going to play in the story. So I really, really appreciated that. I love that Caleb gets like seasick.
Yeah.
Like,
and the even better part is that Sam, like he had the option to drive around the whole time.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, like what the fuck, Sam? Like why wouldn't you just let him drive around? Why make him go on the ferry?
That cracked me up.
Oh, that was great.
I really enjoyed their interactions, and I'm very excited for when Sam returns.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited. You know, when I read the first time, I think I don't know why I didn't catch it, but I thought that Sam had died. And so when I reread this time, I'm like, oh, he's like a revenant now. And he's like this monster, and he's Caleb's best friend. And so now Caleb has this best friend who is both, like, I guess physically, and he's a monster in every sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm really excited to see how Sam deals with that. I'm interested to see if Nicole kind of like gets over that, because it's mentioned at the end of the book. There was some line that said Nicole sees Sam as more of a monster than she is, something along those lines. And I'm like, interesting, because you know, she's her own kind of monster, and he's a monster, but it's just more like pronounced. Like he probably doesn't look very human. And so it'll be interesting to see kind of where that winds up. Will we learn more about Caleb's haunted house, and is there anything more that you can tell us about it now?
Depends on what you want to know about it.
Okay.
It's very important.
It's gotcha. very important. Okay. Is it haunted by the people that died in it, or by the people that caused the incident?
No. Well, remember, it's his grandmother's house.
Yep.
So it is haunted by somebody who died in
it. Okay. Interesting.
We'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
That's totally fine.
Will that be a big part of book 2?
No. It'll be a big part of book 3.
Okay.
Gotcha. Interesting. Gotcha. Yeah, I was super interested in that, because we don't get much of Caleb's backstory, and you even mentioned earlier that, you know, you're gonna do a novella of him meeting Abby, and I would assume everything that got his mark on his
Oh,
arm.
yeah,
Yes.
Yeah. And so that was definitely something I was thinking. I'm like, he's either got to do like a flashback or something later on, or do a side story that's a
Yep.
prequel. And I'm super interested. Along with that, I'm super interested to learn more about like his parents and his grandma and just everything that happened with his house. Because when that scene came up, that was the first time. I think that was the first time that we had learned anything about him having another house. And so
He,
I was immediately interested and wanting to know more.
yeah, he's got his parents' house, and then he has his grandmother's house.
Oh, okay.
And he doesn't live in either one of them. So
Yeah, he's got his little apartment.
So
but
did okay, sorry, go
Go
ahead. I was just
I was just gonna say, yeah. So the novella is because I did not feel like a flashback would do that story justice.
Okay,
okay.
gotcha.
It's very important story, and I've toyed with changing the perspective and putting it from Abby's point of view.
Ah,
Oh,
But I'm gonna see how I feel about it
okay.
before I really. I've started writing it from Caleb's point of view, but it's half the size of Oathbroken, so
yeah,
changing it is not that big a deal.
gotcha.
Okay. If this wasn't something that was answered in this book, that's fine. You don't have to tell us. Did his parents die in the same house that is the grandma's house? Did everybody die there?
No,
No?
no,
Okay.
no, and that wasn't explained, but it's probably. I understand you asking. Like, I know this may not. It's one of the things my wife likes to say to people is everything means something. Nothing is
Yeah,
put in here. Nothing has been put in there without
future thought.
future thought put
Yeah,
into it.
absolutely.
Okay. Great.
I love that.
All right. So the world at large that you've built here, I'm curious, like, what is it as far as like how widespread is the supernatural community in this world, and do vanilla mortals know about it? Like, are any of them like aware of it?
Yes, there are some vanilla mortals that are aware of it. There will be some that will pop up later on. Um, and as far as how large it is, basically, if it exists in mythology,
It's there.
it's fair game.
Okay,
Okay.
cool.
So,
Love
basically, I've gone through an extensive amount of research over mythology, from Filipino mythology
Yeah.
to Egyptian, South American, Greek, Celtic,
Oh, wow.
even Japanese and some Chinese and stuff will come into play. So
Nice.
there are. I don't want to overload it, but at
Right.
the
Yeah.
same time, there are certain factions that will get introduced that will bring in, which you may not see a whole lot from that faction.
Gotcha.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's one of the things that I love about urban fantasies, especially like obviously Dresden Files does it really well, and I love having things like Odin and Mab and all these different like beings from various mythos that get brought in, and it kind of gives you this chance to be like, oh, I know a little bit about that. And so
Yep.
I've always really enjoyed that.
I think that's why I enjoyed the Iron Druid Chronicles so much. So a lot of their stuff is kind of like Celtic, Greek gods and stuff like that, but it comes into play in such a large way. And it's all stuff that you've heard like going through school or this, that, and you kind of, you know who Loki is, and like this stuff with all the movies and stuff. So I thoroughly enjoy the mythological side of like books like this, like very much so. It's probably
Yeah.
why it's probably the reason why like I read them and enjoy them so much is because of that. And because you can incorporate them in so many different ways, right? Like, you know, depending on, just like you said, like there's probably, you know, the Japanese versus the Celtic and so different, right? So you can take it such a different route and do these things. And so I think it's really cool.
It's going to be a challenge, but I mean, we've already mentioned, you know, Flynn mentions the Morgan,
Yeah.
which is Celtic.
Yep.
You know,
That's in Iron Druid, big time.
Flynn himself is technically Celtic. You know, leprechauns are Irish.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, you know, the Hades, who you haven't seen yet, but he is mentioned. Sombra is, you know, from the Mexico, South American area,
Yep.
but she also goes by several other names. So does Azrael.
Okay.
Each of them have their own, they kind of go by names of whatever region that they're currently in.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
so they hold several different titles.
Gotcha.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I like that very much. And the cool thing about it is you can take these like mythologies and these various characters from mythologies and kind of put your own spin on it, because nothing's really off the table with that. Like you can do whatever you want with those characters. And that's kind of something that Jim Butcher does so well, is putting this completely new spin on characters that we've known. And so, yeah, I love that a lot.
I think Flynn is probably one of my better changes to leprechauns.
Yeah.
And how leprechauns work in this world, and why Abby is so nervous about about it, you know. So
yep. And I'll tell you what, when Flynn first showed up on my first read, like I knew somewhere inside my head, right? I knew that, I don't know if I would say leprechaun, but I knew it was along those lines, and I immediately knew like how much more mysterious it was than our like American version of a leprechaun, right? Or like the stuff, just like she said, stuff, you know, the cereal commercials, this and that. So I'm really, really excited to learn more about Flynn and kind of like what his rules are, right? And how it works and the deals and the trades. And so that's going to be sweet.
Sorry. I was just going to say Flynn has been, so far, Flynn is my wife's favorite character.
Yeah. Yep.
Flynn is my brother's favorite character.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I can see why. Absolutely.
Yeah. But they know more. They know how they work.
Yep.
How the leprechauns work and stuff like that. And so even more so, they really enjoy.
For sure. Of course.
Enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm super excited to see, like Gabe said, like what his rules are, because it seemed very very like Fae-like, where, you know, Caleb has to basically buy a favor from him. I'm very interested to see like what the coins are and like what they do and like what they actually mean and how he gets them.
Well, the coins are his pot of gold.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought.
So if you remember in the chapter where he opens his trunk for the first time, the pot of gold is sitting right in there.
Yep.
And so each coin is a coin from Flynn's pot of gold.
Aha.
Oh, I didn't even catch that. So Caleb stole his pot of gold then.
Well,
Flynn.
That's a spoiler that I can't.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay.
Fair enough. But then like that makes me think like Flynn is obviously like trying to get like all of his gold back, right? Like that's got to be a goal in his mind to make these deals, is to get like I want my gold back. That's from my pot of gold. You know what? So I don't know. That's really cool though. I enjoyed that a lot.
Man, that's so great. I did not catch that, and I love that a lot.
He also did something in the I actually had a lot of fun with in the epilogue. I don't know if you guys caught it. He stole Stingy Jack's lantern. And I don't know if you guys know anything about Irish mythology, but Stingy Jack is the reason why we have jack-o'-lanterns.
Oh,
okay. And Stingy Jack he can't go, he made a bargain with the devil and couldn't go to either heaven or hell. And so he's stuck in the spirit world in the in-between, and all he has is his jack-o'-lantern to light his way.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Wow.
So
who stole the jack-o'-lantern?
Flynn.
Oh,
Okay.
Flynn
Yep.
did. Okay.
Yep.
So
Oh man, that's cool. I did not catch that, but that is it's gonna be awesome. I can't wait for all this stuff to connect and see
me
how
too.
it all plays out. All right, so speaking of Caleb kind of going into his little box that he had there, what more can you tell us about kind of all these like tools that he uses, all these magical items, and just kind of how that works with his magic?
So the way that hunters, their magic works is the way that I explained it is an earthen, like a dragon or a witch or vampires or whatever. They essentially can plug into the ether like
directly.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. For hunters, I can't explain everything, but
you're good.
basically they use the sapphires as like a connector,
a conduit or whatever,
like a conduit, right? And they use training to develop their sanctuary, which the sanctuary
the mindscape that he goes to,
the
and his
mindscape,
stars.
exactly.
Yep.
And
Perfect.
It's just kind of like every other fantasy series that you have ever read has a magician that uses their mind's eye, uses their own mindscape to build their spells. It works the exact same way.
Gotcha.
So is that kind of what the sanctuary is? Because he was talking about how his sanctuary is different from other people's sanctuary. Is the sanctuary something that he has built in his mind as a place to like pull his magic from?
Yep, to safely, exactly. You got it. That's it.
Yes.
Wait, to safely what?
Well, so and this is my understanding of it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but so he builds this mindscape, right, to properly channel and protect himself from the magic that comes from the aether, pretty much. So like he has to go to this mindscape, and he also talks about like how many connections he can make to stones, right? And at one point he says something like, I can make 15 connections, which is more than most people can and whatnot. And so that's the way that I think of it. It's like kind of like this safe area he can get to in his head to like properly and safely like channel this magic into his sapphires.
Interesting.
And again, correct me if I'm wrong.
You're pretty correct.
Okay.
The sapphires are all they've already been, if they have a spell, it's already been woven into it. And so basically it runs a program when power gets pushed through it. And that's basically how the magic works. So whenever he draws power through it and activates it, the spell is already ready to go. It runs.
Perfect.
So the sapphire is the thing that connects to the aether, right?
Yes.
Okay. And does he have to have we see him bring all these stones and sapphires and stuff with him. Does he have to have them on his person in order to use them, or can he do it like long range?
It depends.
Okay.
It depends on whatever he's using. So certain items, which of course there are the magic users. He's a hunter, and Atreya says something in the final chapter where she's they're not only hunters. So was it Atreya or was it Caleb? It's not just hunters. There are knights and
Okay, gotcha.
Okay.
So a lot of that, when more of the order become more prevalent, you'll see more of the people and how the order works, how their magic works. It because of the oath on Caleb, bringing his magic forward was very difficult to play with too much magic without making him seem OP.
Gotcha.
Right. Okay.
Gotcha. That makes sense. That makes sense. And then so I've got a question ongoing on the magic system here. Where do you see, like, in the future, you know, how big or how far, like do you want to take this magic system? Like, do you want it to get like quite a bit more complex, or like, you know, kind of, I guess just along those lines, like how big do you want the magic system to get? Are you going to stick with this? Obviously change it up. There'll be different spells, different stones, stuff like that. Or is it something that you're going to add a bunch more to and kind of like grow in its own way in the future books?
It depends on what creature is using magic.
Okay. Gotcha.
So each earthen has their own magic.
Yeah.
It all works the same way, but it's all different.
For sure.
Okay.
As far as Caleb's magic, his magic is different.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and that's a spoiler. So
Yep, you're good. You're good. But I thought that, like, I truly thought that, like, when I would hear him talk about it, and kind of the way that I would hear him talk about other hunters and stuff, like I definitely thought that there's maybe something special about him in the magic department anyways.
Right.
So but as far as like power scale, the magic can get as big as earth shaking.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you look at people like, let's say, I can go ahead and give you guys a little spoiler. In book 2, in the epilogue, it will introduce a Leviathan.
Okay.
And that faction, they have, you know, earth-shaking power.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Absolutely. Oh, that's so
Sweet.
cool.
That's awesome.
That's so awesome. And then also, like, kind of along those lines too, and we kind of already talked about this, talking about the Aether and how he connects and whatnot. But maybe in the future books, are you gonna like maybe go into a little bit more about the mechanics, kind of, and the way that okay, perfect. That's all I need to know.
Or even like how the vampires use their magic and how the witches use their magic. I would love to learn like all the different ways where they all connect to the Aether to use these magics, and really like how they like actually form the spell in their head. Because one of the things that I really appreciated about Dresden Files right away was, you know, Harry Dresden talks a lot about like how he designed a spell in his head. Like when he's talking about his shield, like he's doing math to figure out how much he has to bend the shield, and like how much like all the angles and all the way these different, like how scientifically all these different elements work together. And I love it when magic systems do that.
For sure.
There will be, like I said, basically with this first book, anything having to do with Caleb's magic was really kind of put on a hit or miss kind of thing, because it was, I had to bring it up, and because it couldn't just be like, oh well, the oath was broken, so now he's unstoppable. No, well the oath was put on him, you know, shortly after he left the order. You know, and he was only in the order until he essentially graduated.
Yep.
So he wasn't around as long as his mother was.
Gotcha.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I'm super excited to find out more about like what, like, I mean, we'll find out in the prequel like where his mark kind of came from, but I'm really interested to see kind of the fallout of that. Like, even though they told him at the end of the book, like, you don't really need to worry about this anymore, I'm kind of wondering if there will be more fallout from his mark breaking and all that.
There's definitely, I mean, so essentially book 2, if I was going to give you a small synopsis of what happens in Blood Games, is with Caleb, the fallout of what happened, and Caleb is basically open season on him as far as the supernatural community goes.
Okay.
Oh,
So,
that's super interesting.
He has no protection anymore, because before, nobody wanted to mess with him because it was, you had to deal with the order or you had to deal with the witches.
Yeah.
Now neither one of them are involved, and so now the people who wanted him are fair game to go after.
They're ready. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And so that's where you'll see the goblins get involved.
Okay.
I will be bringing werewolves into book 2.
Oh, cool.
And then you'll also see, Lilith is found out about the magic-born vampires, so she sent her hitman.
Oh, okay.
So book 2 is going to be, I'm very excited about it.
I'm
And
very
it's about-
excited
Sounds
for
awesome.
it.
Yeah, I'm stoked.
Yeah, me too.
And that kind of gets into a question that I have further on down here in the notes. And I want to keep talking about this magic system a little bit too, but real quick, the queen of the witches comes in at the end there. Yep. And tells him that he does not have to worry about this oath anymore, and like they won't try to kill him or anything, but that the order will no longer represent him. I guess my question with that is the coven kind of like the White Council in Dresden Files, and do they have like power over the order? Is that why the order isn't representing him anymore?
No,
good question.
The order isn't representing him anymore because he's no longer part of the order. And essentially when he, I can't give too much away, but
sure.
When you leave and you do something bad, you don't want to be covering somebody's,
for sure, you can't
mistakes,
be responsible for
you
him.
can't be responsible for something that, you trained him, but I don't want to be responsible for him, what he's doing.
Yep.
And
okay,
the witches are definitely not the White Council, but they're definitely not any better than the White Council.
Gotcha.
Okay,
so,
interesting.
Selenia is a very interesting character, and you'll see more of her upcoming.
Okay.
Nice.
So obviously Caleb is doing things that are seen by the order as outside of what they would deem appropriate or necessary then.
Well, yeah, and
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, wouldn't that be the scene about like the goblins and Abby, right? Well, wasn't that something that they, that was like, or maybe that was just against the witches. Maybe I'm mistaking this, because I know the witches like put the oath, like you can't do that here, or whatever.
That was their way of appeasing, essentially. The order agreed to it. It was a stipulation, and it's why the oath was broken. He could not be attacked by any witch.
Okay, yeah. I remember that.
Oh, okay, great.
It doesn't specify which witch, any witch, and that's why when Agnes
attacked him,
it broke the oath.
Okay, gotcha.
Oh,
gotcha.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. All right, just to wrap up this magic system section real quick. So Caleb uses a very complex circle by drawing a circle and then a star, another circle, and then a star on the inside. Then he lights it on fire in a special way that doesn't burn his apartment down. Does he have to do this circle every time for various spells involving circles, or are there different circles?
There are different circles. You'll see more coming up depending on what, and it doesn't always involve. What he was using was essentially to not get himself into trouble.
Oh, okay.
The mixture, because he couldn't perform magic while under the oath. So that was something that he had set up that
Kind of a
didn't
workaround.
require, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Similar to how the stone, the trap stones
Yeah, okay.
work,
Perfect.
they were a workaround as well.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Interesting. Okay, so it was like it was kind of like a preventative measure to help him be able to do that without causing an alarm.
Right.
Yep.
All right, so let's talk about some of these characters. What were your favorite characters to write, and what character arcs are you most excited to see? We've talked about this a little bit already, but I'm interested to hear it.
Probably the easier question is which one I'm not excited to
Yeah.
write.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Sure.
Kathleen is probably my least favorite because I wanted people to dislike her.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
you did great.
You did a good job.
Great, dude. I did not
Well,
like Kathleen at all.
I don't like her either. So,
Yeah.
but she's extremely important to the
Yeah,
series.
I believe it.
I feel like if I didn't feel like they were as important, they died.
Okay.
There you go.
And I made their deaths are very important.
Yeah.
But definitely, if I'm not a fan of your storyline, I'll probably kill you off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I'm
for
not
sure.
afraid to do it either.
That's right.
Okay.
No, I like that. That's good.
Yeah, I think I was very surprised at the end of the book with how many people died. And especially when I originally thought that Sam died, because I was like, man, he will kill anybody. And so I think we're really in for a treat with some heart-wrenching deaths in the future. I could see it happening.
Yep. I want to make a quick note on that whole death thing. And so the last was our Scythe episode, right? Or our Scythe series that we did.
Yeah.
There's a character called Goddard who, and again, like, and people writing these stories, right? Like they have the ability and the power to make you like so much dislike. And I don't think I dislike Kathleen as much as I dislike Goddard, but like there's like this feeling of just like absolute, like I just don't like that person at all. And I felt it really powerful in the Scythe series. And like I just hated the character Goddard so much. Everything he did made me angry. I would be upset, like just pissed off about it. And I don't think Kathleen was as like bad, but even then, like still, it was a powerful feeling of like dislike. Like I just don't like the way she talks. The narrator did such a good job with her voice too. I have to say, such a good job with the way that she spoke. And like when, it sounds like this, just like prissy, like I'm the best, I'm the shit, fuck you kind of person. And so, yeah, that's, I thoroughly enjoyed, I enjoy that about books, right? Because like they give you such a powerful feeling of that. And so, yeah.
I totally agree. And also, side note, I love how explicit this book was. I feel like some authors either they do one of two things. Either they like don't swear at all in their book, or they'll do it like
once every 5-10 chapters. Yeah.
And then it'll feel really weird when they do because it happens so little. But as much as it happened in this book, I really just kind of enjoyed that because it
felt raw and like real,
yeah,
like it was very, very real life. And I enjoyed that too.
Yeah.
That was my intention. I looked at it because I had several people come to me and be like, is there a reason why you're cussing so much in the book?
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm 35.
Yeah.
These people in this book are set in their late 20s.
Yeah.
People cuss.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
And so I was just like, hey, I guess if you don't like it, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna throw it in there. I know my mom actually was like, can you take the cuss? No.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's good. Yeah, it felt super raw, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. Not raw, but like very just real. It's like very, very real feeling.
Yeah, I very much appreciated that
Yeah.
about it, especially in the kind of situations that these characters are finding themselves in. I feel like a lot of books, like there will be like this really heightened situation, and they're not like freaking out, they're not cussing, like it just
Yeah.
like
It just doesn't seem like right, you know?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I'm like, dude, if I was in this
I
situation,
would, yeah.
I would be tripping out and cussing
Yeah.
up a storm.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it felt very, very real.
I agree.
Um, okay, so we kind of talked about Caleb's mark on his arm. Is there anything else that you can tell us about it? Like obviously we know now why it broke. But like, was it? I think the thing that I didn't understand was, is it physically preventing him from casting magic, or is it just like an alarm that notifies the coven?
It's it's an alarm.
Okay.
Okay.
Essentially. There were some side effects and stuff that I have listed, but
Yeah.
whenever I went and I developed the oath or the gesh or however
Yep.
Yes,
you
yeah.
wanted to put it, and you see a little bit of pieces of that whenever it talks about how some of his connections were covered over in red mist, like an angry
Yeah.
red mist, stuff like that. But then when I wrote the story out, I just didn't feel like it was necessary to add it in there.
Gotcha.
Right. Okay.
So more or less, right now, it just ended up kind of being an alarm, and it was like, hey, you know, she's gonna know, and then that's essentially a death sentence
Yeah,
for
because
you.
Caleb knew the gravity of that, right? Like I could feel
Right.
that. Like he knew how important it was that he not break this oath because exactly that, right? Like it would bring his death.
I man, so really I just really liked Caleb as a character in general, because he is kind of this mysterious character, and honestly at the beginning I feel like he is very underestimated by the reader, or at least I did. Because at the beginning of the book you don't know if he already has magic or if it's something that he's going to get in the next couple chapters. But then by the end of the wedding scene you see that he knows about vampires,
Yeah.
and he knows little by little you find out that he knows way more about the supernatural world than you would initially think.
Yep.
And so I'm just really excited to kind of explore his backstory. I liked his snarkiness.
Yep.
And I liked his confidence. In other books you get the main character like having like either like this confident swagger, or like whatever, like they're usually a main character is obviously confident or obviously not confident, and Caleb just has this really like kind of like a quiet confidence, like
Yeah.
whenever he's in a situation he's not really like boastful. He doesn't feel the need to prove himself. He doesn't like, go above and beyond to show like his powers. And I just really like that, because at all times you're not really sure how powerful he can get. Besides the moments when you're like really in his head and you see him in the heat of combat and he's like, oh, I'm like about to die or whatever. But for the most part he's kind of an unknown as far as like his power scale, and I really liked that it was just like very much this quiet confidence. I
Mm.
really appreciated.
Yep.
I'm glad you guys liked it.
Yeah. Yeah, we did.
All right, so let's talk about the vampires real quick. We talked about most of them. But we have Alex, Nicole, Kathleen, David, Richard, and I'm assuming James used to be a vampire before he became a revenant. Um, you know, so there's this mating. Is it called a mating bond? Is that the right term for it? Vampire bond.
Essentially, a
Yeah.
vampire bond.
Okay.
Essentially,
Okay.
it's not. Alex and their bond doesn't work the same as a regular vampire's servant bond.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Okay.
there we'll just go ahead. There are three types of vampires.
Okay.
So you've got Lilith and the more traditional, what you would expect of a vampire. You have, Kathleen and them on what they are, and then you have a third type that you'll read about in the next book.
Gotcha.
Right. Okay. Cool. So yeah, so the bond between Alex and Caleb is they can feel each other's emotions, and at first it seems like that's pretty much it, but we see at the end that she does have at least some sort of influence over him, right? Will we learn more about like exactly what happened there at the end in the next book and more about this bond and kind of what Caleb's going to do about it?
Yes, because that's obviously a problem. Caleb can't be having somebody be able to stop him
Yeah.
and drop him to his knees, essentially.
Right. Yeah, I'm super interested to see how that plays out because it's kind of this it's kind of this interesting push and pull of, he likes Alex, and I could see that growing into like a big romantic thing, and the bond means they can feel each other's emotions, and it can become like this really great romantic plot point. But also you have to take that with she can stop him at any point she wants. So he essentially either needs to make sure that she is 100% on his side, or he needs to get rid of her.
Yeah. Yeah. Or end
Well,
the bond somehow or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she can stop him like that. She can walk right into his apartment because she has immunity to his threshold.
Oh.
And
Okay.
so, he's invited her in, and
Oh, okay.
so
Yep.
she can just walk it right in.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So when she first came to his apartment, she really couldn't come in then?
Yeah, she really
Okay.
couldn't come. Any supernatural creature can't come in.
Yeah.
Okay.
The threshold,
then-
it works the same way as any other supernatural book series.
Right.
For
The
sure.
threshold stops it.
So then I have a quick question about that. So after and this, you may have just said this, but so he invited her in once, right? And so then that's all it takes. Now she can walk into his apartment anytime, in the future. Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify that.
Yeah, I really liked that scene where she showed up for the first time after the wedding. And again, it just kind of goes to show like how like calm and collected Caleb is, because I was expecting this whole like, why did you leave after the wedding? Like, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure you're a vampire and like all these other things. And he just like opens the door and like says hi and then walks back to the counter and pulls out a knife and sets it like on the counter and then just watches to see what she does. And then she like gets sad and goes away, and he's like, "Oh yeah, she's definitely a vampire."
Yep. And the part about that really quick that I really enjoyed too was the way that Caleb portrays, like, I can't remember exactly what he says, but he's like, I said this thing and I could tell that it hurt her, right? Like she was hurt by that. And that was really cool to me to see that, like, there's just a lot more to it than kind of what is shown, I guess, for lack of better words.
Right.
There's more to her psyche and to her emotions connected to Caleb than just like, what you can deduce from that, I guess.
Yeah, she's got like deeper emotions than we would normally see
she was,
in a vampire.
she was like really like that, like really hurt, right? Like she was
Yeah.
really pained by that, like, that was a hurtful situation.
So the other question that I have about the bond is Nicole tells Caleb that Grayson and Kathleen are bonded, and then while talking about them getting married, says the bond has benefits that can get passed on. Is this in reference to children, or
it's more in reference to just like longevity.
okay?
So there are a few other situations, but not necessarily with children.
Okay. So what was she referring to? Benefits that get passed on from the vampire to the mortal, or from the to whoever's on the other end?
Yeah, vampire to whoever it is on the other end.
Okay, gotcha. Cool. All right, so we talked a little bit about the witches' coven. They seem to have a lot of authority. Are they at odds with the hunters? Because we see, obviously we see the vampires' reaction to Caleb being a hunter, and they're like, oh my God, we got to kill him. Do the witches have the same kind of uneasiness with hunters?
No. More or less, they're pretty much uneasy alliance at this point. Not necessarily alliance. Truce. An uneasy truce.
Gotcha.
We'll go with that.
Okay.
Kind of like a ceasefire almost.
Yes.
Okay.
For the most part, basically, unless you're doing something you're not supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and then they can act on it.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
You'll see some more of that, and it'll be explained a little bit because there's going to be an Earthen Council meeting at the end of the book 2.
Gotcha.
That you'll see, and there'll be a lot of discussion that will fill in some of those lines.
Cool.
Okay. So the other quick question I had was, they are witches the only people that are allowed to, the only mortals that are allowed to do magic in this world? Like, if Caleb hadn't, whatever happened with the goblins, if that hadn't happened and he hadn't gotten the oath on his arm, would they have any problem with him hunting and using magic and stuff?
Yeah, yes and no.
Okay.
There's a little bit more to it, and essentially, the witches, you can remember, Selenia is over 400 years old. So they don't exactly consider themselves mortal.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
They're earthen, just like everything else is. There are rules to their longevity that are different.
Okay,
Gotcha.
cool. All right, so I'll try to we're going on a little bit longer than I thought we would here. I'll try to get us through this pretty quick. Is there anything more you can tell us about James? Is there any sort of little hint, or if not, it's totally fine, but anything more you can tell us about James, and kind of what his deal is? Because obviously he's the brother to Agnes, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
And he's a bad guy.
Okay.
Bad guy.
That's
Perfect.
pretty much
Okay.
That's pretty much it. So.
Yep.
Okay.
That works. That works.
All right. So yeah, then as we wrap up the book, let's see who died. Grayson's dead. Richard's dead. Agnes is dead. David is dead, right?
No, David is not dead.
Oh, David's not dead. Okay.
Okay.
Sam is a fucking zombie. Just he's like I gotta go like figure myself out for a while, and he's like I gotta go like discover myself. And so yeah, I don't know where he's gonna go, but he probably should have just like hidden himself in a basement or something. Honestly, like he's gonna scare the shit out of some people out there in the world
trying to figure himself out.
Like, I don't know where you think you're going, but I'm excited to see what happens with Sam. Kathleen is passed the fuck out. Nicole thinks Sam is more of a monster than she is. Caleb is released from his oath and dismissed from the order. Oh yeah, do the witch coven and the hunter order. You said there's like a peace between them, but do they work together to accomplish the same mission, the same goals? Okay.
No. They work together in this instant with Caleb, essentially.
And then at the end of the book, the Queen Witch says, "I have someone who can help you. I suggest you listen to her." And this is this little blonde girl at the end of the book, Ray. And I'm just really interested to see what she is, because I actually had to I actually like rewound a couple times because I thought they had said that she was someone from the witches order, or the witches coven. But then when I went back, I'm like, oh no, they never said anything about it. They just said, I have someone who can help you deal with what's the hell that's about to come your way. And so I'm really interested to see what kind of role she plays and what she could possibly do to help Caleb navigate through this next season of his life.
Well, she's a badass.
Yeah.
So
okay.
You know, I think I'm going to keep it right there.
Yeah.
All right.
To not give spoilers, but
yeah,
he's a badass.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
All right. I'm super excited.
Yeah.
Also, by the way, I loved the music at the end of this book. I literally, I think last night or the night before, I rewound like several times just listening to like that 30 seconds of audio. I would love to hear like a full version of that or something. I kept this, it was like almost like a Spanish guitar, or I don't know. It was, I really liked it. I'm really big into like ending music for audiobooks, like the Dresden Files episode we just did. In Death Masks, they add like kind of like this noir detective music to the end of it that I really liked. And then in Shadow's Son, the Shadow Saga series, in the very last book, they have like this big sweeping like Lord of the Rings type music at the end of it that I really appreciated it. And so I always love ending music, and this one was really good.
I actually loved it too. That was Brayton, his choice.
Really? Nice.
So he chose and he put that in there, and that was all him. He popped up with that at the end of the last day of recording, and I was just like, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
It's really good. I liked it a lot. All right, let's go through real quick. I want to just mention some of these quotes that I really liked. Probably one of the ones that I laughed out loud the hardest at, because it took me so off guard, was it was official. Caleb was going to kill Sam, preferably with his hands, or maybe with a wooden spoon.
Yeah.
Because it's just like the most random object. Like I could just see him like looking around at like what's around him,
finding the wooden spoon. Yep.
And I'm just like, I want to know how he would kill him with a wooden spoon so bad. I loved Nicole says to Caleb the day after the wedding, she's like, she sees Caleb naked when he answers the door when she comes in, and she's like, I can see why Alex was waddling out of here this morning.
Yeah.
It just put such an image in my head.
Yep.
A great at the end of the wedding scene, I really liked there's kind of like this double take moment, because he's describing her green eyes this whole time. He's describing Alex's green eyes. And then at the end of the wedding scene, like right before they're about to have sex, he says, and I fell into those beautiful red eyes. And it was another one of those moments where I was like, did I hear that right? And I had to like rewind, and I'm like, red eyes, okay.
My
So
my editor actually noted it and went back and was like, that this is wrong.
yeah.
And then she
Yeah.
went forward,
You're like,
and then
no.
she started going forward, and she was like, "Oh, wait a minute," you know.
Yeah,
And
switch.
she was like that. I mean, I actually got like a message sent to me, and she was like, "This is amazing,"
Nice.
you know. And
Yep.
she was like, and I of course, you know, I was like, "Oh, yes, thank
Yeah.
you."
Yeah.
Somebody liked something
Exactly.
I did, you
Yep.
know.
Yep.
Definitely,
Yep.
for sure. Yeah, I very much appreciated that. It was very much a double take. I actually had to rewind to look at it or to hear it again, and it was a great moment.
So
Yes.
before you continue, I've got one that I tried to go back and find. I tried to
Oh
listen
yeah.
back. I couldn't find it. And so I'm just going to play this out, Jarryd. Maybe you can help me with it. So it's a scene. They're in somebody's place, and basically Caleb's like, and Alex gave me a look that would make most men piss themselves. And so me being, or whatever he says, like, so I clenched my legs and so I would not piss or something along those lines. But I remember that I drive for Amazon, right? I deliver packages for Amazon. And I was mid delivery driving to this house, and I had to stop in the middle of the road because I started laughing so hard. It like cracked me up the way that he said it. And maybe you can, if you remember that quote, maybe you can clear that up for me. But man, it was so funny.
I can't.
Yeah,
I
no,
want to
it's
say
okay.
it's like around chapter 21 or something like that.
Okay, I'm gonna
But
find it, and
I know the quote,
yeah,
but I
yeah.
just can't think of it.
No,
Off
you're
the top
good.
of
You're
my
good.
head.
I'll find it. We'll post it in the description or something. I don't know, but it was really funny.
There was another one that I really liked about pissing yourself, and it was something.
Yeah, yeah.
It was when he like wakes up. He like woke up from a big battle or something, and he said something about having to piss himself. And then he's like, and then I realized I was in Alex's bed, and she probably wouldn't like it very much
Yeah,
if I pissed
yeah,
myself in her bed.
yeah.
Of course, as Dresden Files
Yep.
fans, we
Oh,
love
this was a big
the,
moment right here.
yeah. What are you, a wizard? No, of course not. What does this look like, Chicago?
Chicago, yeah.
And then
I hope Jim Butcher doesn't come after me for that one though.
Yeah.
I don't think he will, because the Alex Varys series mentions Harry Dresden a few times.
Yeah. And it
So
was
does
in
the
such
Mercy
a
Thompson.
okay,
Oh,
there you
really?
go.
Okay, cool.
And I feel like yours was like nonchalant enough, right? So you
Yeah.
couldn't really pin that on anybody, but the guys that
Right.
know, they know.
Yeah, right. Yeah, if you know, you know.
Yep, exactly.
One of the other ones that made me like laugh out loud was I forget what scene it was, but Caleb had just done something or no, it was when he came downstairs in Alex's clothes, and everybody's giving him like either amused looks or like hateful looks. He's like, and Grayson just looked at him as if he had sprouted a third nipple. And it took me so off guard and made me laugh so hard.
Yep. I feel like I got caught off guard a lot. It was really cool.
Yeah.
Like there were several times where like I said, like I would have to stop and like laugh for a second just to get it out of my system.
Yeah.
I'm very happy that you guys enjoyed those parts.
Yep, I
were
did very much so.
They were
Very
very
much
much
so.
appreciated. All right, let's burn through. I got 3 favorite moments here. Everything involving Alex and Caleb, like the whole time that he was kind of trying to figure out what she was and why she could walk in daylight.
Yep.
I loved all of those moments. I loved all the Alex and Caleb moments, but especially the one where she like showed up to his door in the middle of the night after the nightmare. And she couldn't come inside. I love that scene.
And then I want to pipe in with mine too right here. So again, this was both something that me and Spencer had wrote. I just, kind of stole it off the notes here. But the big undead fight where Caleb brings out the coin, right? Throws it. Abby's of course like, "What are you doing? Don't do that. This is bad." And then of course Flynn shows up. That was really, really, really cool. I'm so I would honestly right now probably say that that's who I'm most excited to learn more about. It would be Flynn.
Yeah. For
I
sure.
loved that scene, and the narrator did such a good job. I can't even say that enough. Like I
Yeah.
literally can't. He did such a good job with Flynn's voice.
Yes. Yeah, I'm excited to find out like why she was freaking out about it so much because
Yeah, well,
obviously
she was terrified. She was
yeah,
like, she was like mortified, like just absolutely scared shitless that he was gonna throw that coin.
yeah, like obviously she knows something
Yeah.
that we don't.
Yep.
Um and yeah, I maybe something happens when he uses more coins or like the more
Yeah.
he uses the coins, something bad happens. I don't know, but I'm excited to find out what all that is
Yep.
about.
That'd
Well,
be sweet.
not to extend all this out. If you recall, in chapter 4, where she meets with Caleb, and she talks to Caleb, and she grabs his hand and everything, and she says to him, "I know what it means for him to be at your call."
Oh, right. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I
okay.
caught that. Yeah, I remember that now.
Ah, ha, ha.
I know what it means for him to be at your call. So there's a cost. There's a
Yeah. Yep. For sure. For
yeah.
sure.
Of course, I loved the big fight at the end. Everybody
Yep.
dying took me by surprise, and I was just like, "Oh shit, he's dead. Oh, they're dead. They're dead. They're dead."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm just like, "Holy crap!" And yeah, I love just everything with Agnes, just how he overcame that, and her like endless night spell I thought was
Yeah.
super interesting.
Yep.
And just all the like monsters that she had in her yard there, like that
Well,
was
I was just really quick. What's the name of the monster that Caleb described to like his friends? Like this is something that you always want to avoid. I don't think it was a revenant. There was another word. There was a different monster.
is the one from Japanese.
Yeah, he calls it a gray one. You guys ever
Okay.
seen The Grudge?
Yes.
Yes, I thought that's what it
Okay.
was.
All right. Perfect. Yes.
Okay.
All right. Cool. Cool.
Yeah. I had a feeling that's what it
Yeah.
was. Okay.
All right. Because I like that a lot.
All right. So we just want to go through some of these future book questions, or like kind of like what we expect to see, or like what questions we would like to see answered in the future. I always love kind of going through these just to kind of like, especially when starting a new series, it's always fun to think ahead.
Yep.
So I would love to see Caleb, being a hunter, use a crossbow. He mentions that he cannot use a bow, but I think it would be interesting if he like tries to use a crossbow or something and realizes that it's easier because it has a trigger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
like maybe he can't like pull a bow back and aim, but he could pull a trigger and shoot a silver bolt or whatever.
Yep.
I would love to see either that or just him like have like a various assortment of weaponry and, you know, typical hunter fare.
He is
sure.
going to have an assortment. I will say right now, in book 2, he's very preferential to collie sticks.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what that is. Collie sticks?
Arnis sticks, Eskrima sticks. Essentially, Nightwing uses. Have you ever?
Yeah.
seen
Yeah.
DC?
That's
Yeah,
Yep.
I know what
Yep.
you're talking about.
That's
So
where I
the
would.
sticks
That's
like
where I
that.
got it. Yeah.
That's
That's
cool.
cool. That's gonna be really cool.
Yeah, I'm interested to see that.
They are Filipino.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So,
Nice.
it's something. It's a part of Arnis, which is a Filipino martial art. So
Okay. Sweet.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I would love to learn more about the vampires, what the bond means, why they can't turn people, and how they themselves got turned. Super excited to learn more about them.
I've got one too. I'm very much interested to see who or what the cat was that saved Caleb from the nightmare. And I was
Yes.
like, and then these are the kind of things, right, that I read or I listen to, and it like makes me like just want so bad to know, right? Like I was
Yeah.
like, I just wanted so badly to know what it was, but that's the point, obviously, and that's great, and I love that. But I'm very much excited. However many books away that is that we learn or whatever else, I'm excited to learn more about that cat.
Yeah.
Hopefully we do. I don't know if we do, but
oh no,
I would like to.
you do.
Okay, yeah, I kind of figured we would.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that'll be sweet.
All right, guys. Well, we're kind of at the end here. I'm sorry it went a little long, a little longer than expected. Do you guys have any final thoughts or anything you want to say to anybody before we close out here?
I'm good. Other than just thank you, to Jarryd for coming on the show, man. That was
Yeah.
I had so much fun. This was such a cool episode to do, and I'm just grateful that you were willing to come out and be with us and kind of talk about this book. It was really nice.
Thank you guys for having me. So I had a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
It was really just a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate for you guys having me, for checking the book out, and I'm really glad you guys enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah, we liked it a lot.
Yeah, man, I've loved talking to you on Twitter. We've been talking all the time on Twitter, retweeting each other's stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really appreciate you, man. And this series is going to be awesome, and I'm super excited for it. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. All right. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us for our Indie August episode interviewing Jarryd Smith. Definitely go follow him on Twitter at jsmithindieauth. Again, that's author without the OR, to keep up with his future works, and make sure you leave a review for Oathbroken on Audible when you get these codes. Or Kindle. If you buy it on Kindle, leave a review, or wherever you consume it, and go support indie authors. Like I said, there's a ton of great stuff coming out right now, and my TBR pile has never been larger.
Yeah. Yeah.
Our next episode will be a group discussion of King's Dark Tidings with our friend Chris, which is actually another self-published series by author Kel Cade. And then we are on to the Lightbringer Saga by Brent Weeks.
Yes.
We are so excited for this series. Can't wait to check it out. Other than that, please follow us on Twitter to keep up with all of our content at Files Fantasy, and like and subscribe here on YouTube. It helps with the analytics. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, maybe try to sprout a third nipple and just see what happens.
Yeah.